Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and this is the card that I will be making today. It's what I'm calling a portrait changer. I've made this card or style of card once before on my channel, but ever since then I've been noodling on ways to improve it because if you saw that first video, you may remember I struggled a little bit because there were quite a few catch points that I had to troubleshoot as I was going, and I think I've pretty much eliminated all of them, and so this is a much improved way of creating this style of card. Now, improvement number one, this one's the major one, and if you do anything, I think this is the key. So I am laminating basically that middle scene. So this portrait changer is essentially a double slider with a static middle scene. So you've got your foreground, your background, and those are the two elements that are going to be moving on the double slider, and then you've got your middle scene. And the reason why laminating improves the mechanism of this card so much is because it eliminates this middle scene as a potential catch point. In the first time I made this card, one of the major areas that potentially sort of snagged was that my middle scene was just a die cut that I attached to my mechanism just with a regular pop-up stand. And in particular, when the outfit slides over the middle seam, it has to glide right over it. And if those are just two die cuts that have their edges free, there's a lot of potential for those two edges to intersect with one another, to snag on one another, and not glide smoothly. So by laminating that middle scene, it removes it as a potential catch point, and everything in front of and behind it glides super smoothly. So this is my preferred way of creating a double slider. I like to make it as a ribbon slider. So basically there are two slots that get cut out about 1/2 inch high. And then I like to use a nice soft plastic to create my conveyor belt, which will be what we attach our acetate stands to. And I like to attach my pull tab to the front, although I don't think it really matters. You can attach it to the back or the front. I just happen to like putting it on the front. And I've pushed where I connected the two ends of the plastic, that's all the way flush to one end. That way, when I go to attach my pull tab, I'm gonna have sort of the maximum travel length, because wherever you attached the seam of your conveyor belt, where the two open ends overlapped, it's basically going to stop moving at that point because that adhesive can't roll through your slots. And so to maximize the length that you can pull your tab, you want to push that seam all the way to one end and then attach your tab to it. And I'm going to start off by only putting my foam adhesive strips on the bottom portion. On the top, I don't yet know where it's safe to put adhesive, so I'm going to leave that free for the moment. The adhesive strip at the bottom here is going to serve two purposes, and I've got it on the front and the back. The first purpose is just as a spacer, so that whatever we're attaching to the conveyor belt, it has space to move without too much friction against the cardstock behind it and in front of it. And the second purpose that those foam strips have is that they actually act as guardrails for the pull tab, so that when you pull on the pull tab, it actually moves more straight and parallel, which will improve the function of the slider as well. So what I have here are panels that I've embossed. I like to use I have a couple of Paper Discovery embossing folders that are, I think, part of their room builders, where it's really gorgeous. It's got a beautiful decorative wall and sort of that forced perspective flooring as well, and I think it's perfect for these portrait changers because basically I'm trying to kind of make this feel like it's a portrait hanging on the wall, and when you pull the pull tab, it actually changes the scene, which is why I like to call these portrait changers. At the end of the day, like I said, it's really just a double slider, but with the inclusion of sort of that middle static scene. Okay, so now I'm going to die cut this window through my embossed layer here so that you can see straight through to the middle scene and all the way back to the card base. And I am going to put some acetate behind that window too. I don't think I showed it on camera because I must have lost some footage, but one of the other improvements that I made over the first time that I made this card is I actually did a full strip of acetate behind the portrait frame on that embossed panel. So on the back of the embossed panel, I actually put acetate stretching from the left edge all the way across to the right edge. That way there's no catch point for what is going to slide across it, which in the case of this card is the Santa outfit. So that was another big improvement. Oh, I guess I do show it. So because here's the acetate that I'm gonna cut down. And I didn't mention it, but I did attach what's going to be basically behind the portrait. And I cut that to size, but really I think if I were to do it again, I would cut a piece that's larger than the portrait. That way, in case somebody tilts it, left or right, or you could cover the entire back of the card base if you wanted. But I was trying to conserve on cardstock and pattern paper, so I cut it almost exactly to the size. I think I did cut it. I used the same die. Yeah, I cut it exactly to the size of that portrait opening. So that sort of green with the brown border, I also used Scotch tape on that right hand edge. And I didn't show it on camera, but I Scotch taped that edge down so that it's not a catch point for the tree, for the Christmas tree that's going to glide over it. So Scotch tape is sort of my answer to almost everything if I want to try to remove catch points, because it just smooths out that slight difference in thickness, or that might catch the tree, the edge of the tree die cut. And so with that Scotch tape, the edge of the tree just glides right over it, and you won't have an issue of the tree bumping into the side of that brown layer of the frame that I've got there. Now the other way to avoid a catch point there is if you use just a larger piece of pattern paper that actually stretches all the way, from the left edge to the right edge, or at the very least all the way to the right edge, so that the tree doesn't have, it's all one layer or one level of thickness, and there's nothing for the tree to get caught on, or nothing to snag the tree. So that's something to kind of bear in mind. Now the acetate that I'm working on, the acetate stand that I'm working on here, where the Santa outfit is attached, I decided instead of attaching it to the conveyor belt, which is a soft plastic, and you can, sort of see my trees kind of wiggling a little bit, I attached it instead to my pull tab, which is a lot stronger. And once I determined how far the pull tab needs to travel in order for the outfit to line up 100% on top of my Quokka, I put a bit of foam tape on the top of the mechanism so that when the acetate stand hits that foam tape, it's not going to be able to move anymore. And that is serving as a stopper. And that's why I had to leave it to this point before figuring out where I could put that strip of foam, because I needed to kind of preview everything to know how far the pull tab needs to travel in order for everything to line up correctly. And so now that I have that position determined and that front piece of foam is acting as a stopper, I can flip this around to the back and actually put foam on the back as well. And that just helps to keep things nice and stable, nice and sturdy. So then I decided, I did color up some of the presents that came in this set, and I decided I want to add that. So I just cut away some of the foam that I have on the side here so that the present has somewhere to go once you slide it off stage, so to speak. But I need to attach it to the acetate stand. So I'm just going to add it to my main acetate stand that has the Santa outfit. And I just previewed it with some low tack tape just to make sure it was going to work the way I thought it would work. And it works just fine. And I am using heavyweight acetate, like construction weight acetate. So everything is nice and sturdy. It's not my normal acetate that I use for shakers, for example, where it'll just flop over on its own weight. This stuff is nice and strong. If you don't have heavyweight acetate or construction weight acetate, you can also use packaging, plastic packaging. Now, one thing that I didn't pay super close attention to was the fact that the Santa hat is actually wider than the outfit. And so as I was previewing and placing my stand for the Santa outfit, I didn't factor in the Santa hat. And so when I pull on the tab to put it into its starting position, you can actually see a little bit of that hat peeking through. It's not the end of the world, but it's just, a tip for you to make sure that when you're doing all of your previewing, to consider all of the elements that you are pulling on and off stage, so to speak, and make sure that everything is hidden that you want to be hidden, and everything is visible that you want to be visible. So that would be my main recommendation. And I do like to use black foam in this case so that if anyone does peer around corners and whatnot, it just looks like shadow. And so it doesn't stand out quite as much as white foam would. And there you saw that I put that little bit of that foam strip on the back. And now that I know how far the acetate needs to travel, I'm being careful only to put foam adhesive where I know it's not impeding the movement of my pull tab, and it's not impeding the movement of the acetate stands. So I give everything a really good burnish, and then I realized, oh, the other element I wanted to bring on stage was the little mistletoe. And if I had remembered in time, I wouldn't have cut down the primary acetate stand that's holding the Santa outfit. I wouldn't have cut that down as short as I did, because I could have left it so that I would have enough to attach my little mistletoe here. But it's okay, you can always just add a little bit of acetate to it, and no one would ever really know, because it's all being attached behind the outfit, so you don't see, that extra piece of plastic. And since we've gone through, you know, a lot of precautionary measures to remove potential catch points, adding that extra little layer there won't cause any issues with the thickness, the extra bulk or the extra thickness, because I am using my regular foam here. This is my regular 2 to 3 millimeter thick foam. It's not the low profile stuff. I wanted to make sure that we've got plenty of room for everything to move and without friction. And so I've used my regular foam. Now that does mean that this ends up being two thicknesses of foam thick. So to mail this card, I would play it safe and pay for that extra postage when you're mailing you know, a letter that's thick or odd size. So I think it's the non-machinable fee is what it's called. So, you know, it's worth it, I think, you know, to spend the extra money on special cards like these. So once I get this top layer on, and I did go back and dot in some liquid adhesive just to give myself some time to get this really positioned well, and as you can see, I really needed it. I give it a nice burnish. And that liquid adhesive will really make sure that it's a nice permanent stick. And you can see the Santa hat peeking out there. And so, yes, I do wish that wasn't the case, but all things considered, I still think it's a really fantastic card. So I just added a gold embossed little panel, and I inset it right into that sort of, I forget what they call it, the chair rail. No, it's not the chair rail. I don't know what they call that molding at the bottom, but I love these portrait changers. I just think it's so fun. And I definitely want to do this with more of the Quokkas because there are so many different outfits that you can choose, just even within the Christmas set. But then there's also Halloween. I think there's Thanksgiving as well. So I'll leave links to all the products in the description box below if you're curious to check any of them out. I hope that you like this card, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I post them, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the notification bell. Thanks so much. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.